We are 25 days away from the NFL Draft being here, so I thought it'd be a good idea to react to ESPN and their 7-round mock draft that they put out for every team, including our New York Football Giants. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're going to be live for every single pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, and I promise you this, if you want all Giants all the time, this is the place you got to be for NFL Draft Weekend. The picks will come in faster. We'll have deeper analysis for every single pick and player and absolutely zero commercials. So if that's what you're looking for, subscribe and let's go Big Blue. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Let's dive into it. Matt Miller of ESPN has released his first 7-round mock draft for the 2025 cycle, and I thought it'd be a good idea to react to it. Kind of set the foundation here a little bit for the Giants. They're going to have 8 picks coming up in this draft with 5 inside the top 105. A great opportunity for Joe Schoen to go out there and add some young, talented football players to this team that, quite frankly, needs an infusion of young talent. You got 3 picks inside the top 65. You should walk away with multiple starters, and you should walk away feeling like you have had a good weekend and making your team better. Let's start with the first pick the Giants have, which is number 3 overall, and Matt Miller had Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado, being mocked to the New York Football Giants, which means Cam Ward ended up going number 1 to the Tennessee Titans, and Abdul Carter ended up going number 2 to the Cleveland Browns. So Miller made the decision to select Shedeur Sanders over Travis Hunter, and that has been something that I have been going back and forth on ever since the Giants had Russell Wilson put pen to paper to join their organization. So I'm looking for some help from you guys. If you were Joe Schoen, and Shedeur and Travis were both on the board when you were on the clock with the number 3 pick, who would you select? The quarterback, the Heisman? Let me know. To be honest with you, it's hard for me to pass up on Travis Hunter. I have him as the best football player in this class, and I think the New York Giants can greatly benefit from adding more blue chip prospects to this organization. You can never go broke taking the best player in the draft at the number 3 overall pick. And that is what I have for Travis Hunter. He's the number 1 player on my big board. I have him, and then I have Abdul Carter. And I have Shedeur Sanders as my QB too. And I think he's someone that is worthy of this selection. The Giants, they need a quarterback. He's the best available. That makes sense. But I have a mid-round 1 grade on Shedeur. And if you've been watching this show for a while now, you know that I do like Shedeur Sanders. And I think he's someone that can have a lot of success in the National Football League. And I want to make it abundantly clear. I am absolutely okay with Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen pulling the trigger and selecting Sanders with the number 3 overall pick. I get why they would do it. A lot of the time, I try to put myself in their shoes and think what they would do. And I've been thinking a lot about them potentially needing to add a quarterback in a year where they're entering on the hot seat, and John Mara said you got to find the franchise quarterback. But what is the best outcome for the New York Giants? Not for Joe Schoen, not for Brian Daboll, for the New York Football Giants. What is the best outcome with that number 3 overall pick? If Shedeur comes out and he's a great quarterback, it's absolutely him. But if Travis Hunter is the guy that we think he is, and maybe Shedeur isn't the guy that a lot of us hope he is, that's not going to be best for the Giants. I will be very happy if the Giants take Sanders, because I do think he has more than enough skill, more than enough talent to be a successful NFL quarterback. And if Brian Daboll is who we want and think he is, which is a quarterback guru, then you need him to be able to make Shedeur Sanders a good NFL quarterback. We just saw Sean Payton turn Bo Nix into what looked like maybe the second best rookie quarterback this past year. Great coaching is what wins in this league alongside great talent. And I think that there's enough from Shedeur to be good to great under Brian Daboll. I think he's extremely accurate. He might be the most accurate quarterback in the class. I went to the Big 12 Pro Day. I went to the NFL Combine. I talked to every single Colorado wide receiver, and I asked them, what's the one word you would use to describe Shedeur Sanders' game? And they all said accurate. Multiple saying he's the most accurate quarterback I've ever played with. I think he's an underrated playmaker inside and outside the pocket. And I think he's an underrated athlete as well. I know he's not Deion Sanders when it comes to being able to possess that long speed, but he can make plays with his legs. He's really good under pressure. I think he has a solid but not a great feel of anticipation and processing. I think that gets overrated by a lot of people in his game, saying he's the best processor. He's the best when it comes to anticipation, getting from read to read to read. He's good there. He's not great, and that's what I also think about his arm. He's all right there, and he doesn't have the best arm, but a good enough arm to work in the NFL. We know Joe Schoen is looking for his next franchise quarterback. The question is, does Joe Schoen think that Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback? And that is all you have to ask yourself if you're Joe. If you think he's a franchise quarterback, you take him at number 3. If you don't, you don't. It's that simple. I'd be okay with the pick because he's our guy. We get a quarterback and we have a direction. But I would also completely understand if Joe Schoen said, I'm going to take Abdul Carter and I'm going to take Travis Hunter and I'm going to walk away with the best player in the draft. I won't be able to knock him for that. At the second pick, the New York Giants get Shedeur Sanders a weapon in this mock draft. Emeka Egbuka, the very talented wide receiver out of Ohio State. It seems like we've been talking about this guy as a potential first or second round pick for 2 or 3 draft cycles at this point. He's now finally entering the NFL draft. Comes in at just under 6'1", 202 pounds with a lot of production on his resume. 81 catches for over a stack this year. 10 touchdowns with a long catch of 68 yards. Primarily works out of the slot, but I don't want people to think that that means he's not an elite wide receiver because I think he does a lot of things at an elite level. Dane Brugler had him ranked as his 24th overall prospect, saying if you want flashy, jump to another wide receiver. If you want a savvy, rugged receiver with NFL-ready instincts, Egbuka fits the bill. And Pro Football Focus singing a similar song, saying there seems to be some draft fatigue with Egbuka. Don't fall for it. He's a high floor, versatile, and savvy receiver as a borderline wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. He's been really good for a really long time in college. And I don't think that that's going to stop when he gets to the National Football League. We talked about this year, 80-plus catches, over 1,000 yards in 16 games played, just 5 drops. What about in 2023? 41 grabs, 515 yards, had some injuries, wasn't a huge part of the offense. There was a lot of great wide receivers throughout his time at Ohio State. But in 2022, he shined amongst all of them. 74 grabs, 1,100 yards, 15.6 yards per catch, and 10 touchdowns. And that stands out to me. 15.6 yards per catch in 2022. He goes to a different role in 2024, operating out of the slot. Still efficient, but not nearly as explosive. And we've seen him throughout his time at Ohio State. He works out of the slot. 81.1% of his snaps this year came from inside the slot. Still really good on contested catches. He's not just a short whip route guy. He's not running Chinas all the time. He's not running darts. He's not running shallow crosses. He has an expanded route tree, and he can get open downfield as well. And when he's covered, he can still make a play, converting on nearly 60% of his contested catches. Thought this was big as well. His average depth of target, meaning every time he's targeted, how far is he down the field? 7.9 yards this year. That was with a huge percent of his snaps in the slot. But 10.2 in 2022 when he averaged 15 yards per catch. So he can be more of a vertical threat if he needs to be. Doesn't drop the football. And if I had to say who he reminds me of, I'm not saying he's going to be this guy. Not saying he's going to have the same production, be as good or better or worse. But he reminds me of Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions. Tough, slot receiver, makes catches over the middle, underrated athlete, and just has a knack for making big-time plays. Emeka Egbuka is someone I would be interested in at pick 34. There's other receivers as well I like at pick 34. We'll talk about that later on in the channel. Let's go to pick number 3, and let's talk about a guy who I think is going to be a starter for you on day 1. Darius Alexander, the defensive tackle out of Toledo, nearly 6'4", 305 pounds, and was a productive football player throughout his college career. This is an extremely stacked defensive tackle class, and he stands out as one. And to be honest with you, I don't know if he's going to last until pick 65. If he does, it's because people say, well, He is 24 years old, and maybe we want a player that's a little bit younger. But when you talk about size, when you talk about productivity, and you talk about athleticism, Alexander is just as good as almost anybody at defensive tackle in this class. He showed that at the NFL Combine. He showed that throughout the pre-draft process, and he showed that on the football field. His relative athletic score, which pretty much just puts a number value on how well you tested out at the NFL Combine when it comes to drills and size on a scale of 1 to 10. He tested out in the 97th percentile, a 9.2 RAS score. We told you, almost 6'4", over 305 pounds. He's got extremely long arms at 34 inches. Amazing stuff there. He's got a good 40 time for a big fella. He's got an explosive lower body that you could see in the broad jump and the vertical jump, and you could see in that 40-yard dash, his first 10 seconds, he was able to get going. The athletic Stain Brugler, I thought, gave a good inside look on who Alexander is, saying despite being part of a loaded defensive line group at the Senior Bowl, Alexander was able to shine bright, putting himself in the mix to be a second-round pick. He has loose body control for a 304-pounder, and his play activity and toughness show both on the interior and when rushing off the edge. He can get after the quarterback from inside or outside. This year, 37 pressures, mainly playing as an interior defensive lineman. 46 pressures in 2023. You put this type of player next to Dexter Lawrence with Brian Burns on one side and Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side, Chauncey Golston being that third edge guy, you have taken this defensive line to another level. And Darius Alexander is the type of player that you need to leave the NFL draft with. If Joe Schoen does not find a starting caliber defensive tackle with pick 34 or pick 65, this D-line is going to be in a little bit of trouble. I know you made 2 depth signings in free agency, but you need an impact player next to Dexter Lawrence that can help you stuff the run. I love what you did at corner. I love what you did at safety. I still worry a little bit about that run defense. Darius Alexander, he's going to be able to help that right away in his NFL career. Barrett Carter, the linebacker out of Clemson, was the next pick in this 7-round ESPN mock draft, the inside linebacker out of Clemson. This is someone, to be honest with you guys, that I have not done much research on prior to filming this show. Did a lot of research going into this one, obviously, but I didn't really know much about him. 82 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 6 foot, 1/8 inch, 231 pounds. This is a guy that's gotten a lot of love. I haven't personally seen too much that says he is worthy of the 99th overall pick. This is what Miller writes, saying Carter has been a 3-down player for the Tigers the past 3 seasons, compelling 12.5 sacks, 3 INTs, and 30.5 tackles for a loss. I know I said inside linebacker earlier. He can really play everywhere. He can play off the ball. He can play on the ball. You can use him as a chess piece, which I do think really benefits in a Shane Bowen defense. But there are some things about his game that I am worried about. I don't think he covers well. I don't think that he really moves all that well when it comes to moving backwards. I know some people project him more as a pass rusher in the National Football League, but he also played a good bit at that interior spot. You look at some of the stats that he has throughout his college career. 82 tackles this past year, 11 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 7 pass breakups. The prior year, 3.5 sacks as well, 5 more pass breakups, 10 tackles for loss. I see him better as a pass rusher at the next level, and you could do that. 618 snaps inside the box this year, 116 on the defensive line, 94 snaps in the slot. I don't want him as a coverage guy. I want him going north and south, an 81.9 run defense grade. If he wants to put his hand in the dirt and get after the quarterback, I'm cool with that. A little bit undersized, I think, to consistently do that. But someone that is an intriguing prospect, to say the least. I like this pick a lot more. Braden Swinson, the defensive end out of LSU. If you're looking to take a pass rusher that specializes in getting after the quarterback, Swinson, in my opinion, is one of the best in the class. And to be honest with you, I don't know why he's not getting more love at this point. He's got the size at 6'3.5", 255 pounds. And when you put on the tape, he pops off the page. And when you look at the advanced metrics, you say to yourself, why is this guy not being talked about as a first-round pick? I really don't understand it. 9 sacks this year, according to PFF, 8 quarterback hits, 43 hurries, a pass rush grade over 90, a true pass set pass rush grade over 91, and a pass rush win rate of 22.1%. Those are all nearly at the top of the class. This year, he had 60 pressures. 60 pressures in 13 football games. That's tied for the 6th most in the country. He had the 6th best pass rush win rate. He had a pass rush production score on true pass sets of 18.7, which was the 3rd best in all of college football. Winston is someone that I love as a day 2 pick. You get him late, or you get him in day 3 in this mock draft, I would be looking at him at potentially a day 2 slot. I don't understand why he's slipping. I know he went from Oregon to LSU, and the production didn't necessarily come until his last year in college, but you can't fake the funk when it comes to getting after a quarterback. 60 pressures, this guy can get it done. Jalen Travis on the offensive line was the next selection at Iowa State. 5th round pick, 154th overall. This is someone that is an athletic freak, and you are taking a shot and hoping that it falls. 6'7", nearly 340 pounds, a relative athletic score in the 99th percentile. And he can move for a big fella, 5'1", 40, 35-inch vertical, a broad jump in the 92nd percentile. And he honestly is someone that I thought looked pretty solid and played relatively well. First 3 years at Princeton, transfers to Iowa State this past year. What I like about him is at Princeton, he played on the interior offensive line. At Iowa State, he bounced out to be a tackle. And it's a projection pick. It's a lottery ticket. You're willing to bet on a guy that's 6'8", extremely athletic, and has shown flashes before. I don't mind it at the tackle spot where you could use some juice. Brashard Smith, the running back out of SMU, was the first 7th-round pick for the New York Giants, number 219 overall. Brashard is a nice back. He's someone that I've done some tape study on. I like the tools that he brings. Ran a good 40, 4.38. He's able to get it going. Good 10-yard split, good 20-yard split. I think he's someone that has to be a part of a backfield, a little bit undersized, 184 pounds, under 5'9", but he's got good production as well. Over 1,300 yards on the ground this past year. He can make people miss as well. He can be a little bit of a factor outside of the run game. You can give him the ball in the flat, and he can get north and south. The Giants I would like to see leave this draft with another back. Your RB3 at this point is Eric Gray. He's been disappointing, to say the least. The last pick has been Xavier Truss. Just Truss, big Truss. 7th-round pick, 246, interior offensive line out of Georgia. I like doubling down on the offensive line late in day 3. If you could find a way to maybe have Xavier Truss or Jalen Travis turn out to be a rotational piece or a depth piece for you down the line, that would be more than hoping that you were going to get at this point. 6'7", 309 pounds, fits the bill there. Wasn't the most productive offensive lineman at Georgia. He's played some right tackle. People think he's going to bounce into guard in the National Football League. Played a little bit of guard as well. 128 snaps in 2023 there, 725 snaps there in 2022. So I like the versatility. I like that he's done a little bit of both. And you're hoping that in day 3, round 7, you find a gem amongst everybody else. I got a couple more thoughts on this draft in a second. First, though, get your Malik Neighbors jersey today. Go to chatsports.com/neighbors, chatsports.com/neighbors. Make sure you're ready to go for week 1. Russie to Malik. It's going to be lit on Sundays. Neighbors might go for $1,500 this year. Get your jersey, chatsports.com/neighbors. All right, a quick recap. Shedeur Sanders, round 1. Emeka Egbuka, round 2. Darius Alexander, round 3. Barrett Carter, round 3, number 99. And probably my favorite pick in this draft, Braden Swinson, the edge rusher out of LSU, selection number 105. You get Jalen Travis, the project offensive tackle out of Iowa State. Brashard Smith, the Swifty running back. And big Truss, Xavier Truss, round 7. So that's what your mock draft looks like. My question to you is, what would you grade this mock draft? Get out your red pen. If these were the 8 picks that Joe Shane made on draft day, how would you feel about it? A, B, C, D, or F, sound off for me. And make sure you are following me on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on IG, @MarshallGreen_. Hit me up, and let's go Big Blue.